Everybody left, so it's just me and you, Kenny.
Bob talked about a couple of experiments with Tony in the back end, Corey Nelson at the nickel stand position. Could you talk about, from your perspective, those experiments and what you're looking for and how it's looked so far in three practices?
Well, what we're looking for more than anything is to find ways to get players that over the last year have shown us a knack for showing up at the football and making plays. They're instinctive guys. They're good football players, and I think we'd be negligent not to find ways to get them on the field and find what they're comfortable with, what they can do, what they can't do, what they're really good at, what they're not so good at, and so we're working through that right now with a combination of some other guys. I think, we've said it 100 times, in the last year that, good defense is built up the middle. That free safety position is actually up the middle. We rely on that guy in a number of different ways, but he's got to show up, make 75 to 80 tackles, and a few interceptions. We're gonna blitz that guy. It's a playmaking position for us, and it's an incredibly important position. And that's got to be as consistent of a position as we have on our whole defense. And that position's we got to make sure that that's a position where we got consistently a guy there making plays, consistently a guy that's in great position on the football and that understands what we're doing. So. We're looking also at Joseph Ebeloy, who has actually started, a number of games the last couple of years at both safety and the Sam outside linebacker position. And, so he and Corey both, along with some other guys, and Tony's still getting some reps there at that position. And Javon and Sam Proctor have both started games. We'll continue to get looked at there. And again, we really feel that the test of time here through fall camp will show us again, who are the most consistent players, and Corey's working other positions too, so it's not just that position.
Brent, difficult topic for you. Austin Box, how have the guys after 3 days of training camp, being here the fourth day, the registration day, how have they rallied around each other? Have you noticed any guys talking about him?
Well, I mean, there's obviously there's been talk of him. He's really, we're reminded of him daily. The teaching tape that we have for our defense is he's all over it, from clips from 2008 to 9 to this last year. And so you're constantly reminded of him that way. I think it's, there hasn't been a quote unquote plan on how to handle outside of more than anything, be supportive, be open to discussing and leaning on each other, helping each other cope. But we're constantly reminded of him in a very positive way. His birthday's coming up, August 10th, and it's not easy. But I think. What's hard, what you have to manage, I should say, is trying to deal with it without compartmentalizing it, and because that's easy to do. And these young guys, he meant a lot to, and means a lot to this team and these players. He's very close to so many guys. And like I said before, it wouldn't be right to obviously brush it to the side. Or we're trying to move forward and deal with it as best we can. And there's some ways that I'm sure Coach Stoops probably addressed it, in ways that we're going to honor him this year. And I think we're still working through some of that right now as an administration.
Have you left the seat? Is his seat still there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I want to get it straight. Tony Jefferson is working primarily at free safety and
free and at nickel, both.
Okay. And I mean, here's the defensive newcomer of the year. It would seem to make sense, from somebody like me, not inside, that it'd be great to have a position where he's always going to play. I mean, a player like that. but at the same time, he has the ability to move around. How do you make these decisions? How do you?
Well, we're working through that. So the decision is, let's find a way. Let's see. And we did that a little bit this spring too. You know, I know you guys wouldn't know because the practices are closed and we don't, you know, we got our guard up and we're paranoid. But yeah, I mean, listen, trust me, because I coach linebackers, and we've been fortunate to have guys that have been incredibly successful. And Rocky played Mike, Teddy and Will, and Teddy played Mike and Will, and Travis has played Will and Mike, and I can go down the list of a bunch of guys that you say, well, do we take a great player at his position and move him to another position and take a risk of him being not so great? And that's what we. But it's a playmaking position though as well, and I wouldn't call him great at his position yet either, at the position he was at last year, and he did really well for a true freshman. But there's a lot that he needed and needed to get better at, and I feel like would have another year of experience. But the only way you feel like you can experiment with that or look at that is by having other players that can play that position pretty dang well as well. And Corey and Joe, you know, we feel like that gives you the best opportunity to put your best, you know, looking at your best, you know, 12, 13 players. And but if that's not the case here after, you know, again, a short amount of time, we'll look, you know, that's why we'll continue to give him reps there as well. It's an easy position in this defense to learn. And I think through the years we've seen that you know, we haven't had Roy Williams at that position every year, but we've been really pretty good at that position. Tony has a real knack, and he has a chance to be a special player. I think that goes without saying, but that free safety position is incredibly important because that's a last line of defense position, but it's also an incredibly big-time playmaking position. That guy's going to make 80 tackles and a lot of game saving type tackles where that nickel Sam, he's going to leverage the football more than he is making a play downhill in the run game. So again, that's a position that Quentin Carter was an All-American last year for reasons more than anything else, his consistency, showing up at the football, making plays on the football in both the throwing and the running game. And it's a high stress position. And so Tony has proven to us. I think it really shows how we feel about Tony, looking at him at that position, you know, and the trust that we have in him.
And you've always talked about you've got to be really good at the front line to be as good as you want to be on defense.
Up the middle of your defense. So it's not just those guys inside. It's your middle linebacker. It's that free safety as well. And again, we felt good about those guys last year, and then we had a few guys go down, and then the next thing you know, it's not so good. And then you got basically what's a true freshman linebacker that at times was really good, and then other times was a little bit out of position. It doesn't take very much. You know, you don't have to be out of position by 10 yards. You're out of position by 12 inches. It's a big time problem. And the comfort level that Tom has this year compared to a year ago is not even close. It's not coach speaking. It is what it is. You know, he's showing up. He's consistent. We've looked good there through 3 days, and the tackles have looked, you know, good. Casey, Stacy, Jamarcus, Torrier. We had talked a few days ago that we were hoping that Torrier can come along in his development. We can expedite that development. He's got some special ability, we feel like, that's maybe even different than some other guys that we have there, and we just need to give him, you know, a bunch of reps and get him experience as much as we can, and really, again, bring him along quickly. But we feel really good about those other guys. We feel like I think, to me, it's all relative to who it is that you're playing, and then again, how the players around them. I think our playmakers. Ronell's proven that he can make some plays. We'll see if he can do it on a full-time basis, but really the gist of our playmakers are guys that are proven our playmakers, are guys in a secondary and at linebacker. That's where our depth's at linebacker. We're not real deep in the secondary, but we really feel good about some playmakers there. We love both of our corners, and Gabe Lynn, what he did this spring. We really feel like we got 3 corners there. If Tony's back at safety and Eric Colvin, we feel really good about those guys. what they've shown, the knack that they've shown. Those two guys will be young players there, but they've really shown the innate ability to make plays and be around the football and be in good position. Even when they make some mistakes, they still have relatively good position. As a result, those guys need to help protect those guys too. So it's a cumulative effect that way. But and at the defensive end, we got three ends right now that we feel like have proven that they're capable of playing at a dang good level in Rondell and Frank and David King. We like those three guys. We're looking for a fourth guy to emerge through 3 days. Gino and Chuka probably have really pleased us in regards to their assuredness, their quickness, their physicality. Gino looks a lot different than he did even in the spring. We were not overly excited after their spring performance. Chuka actually had a good spring and really has taken it to another level where, again, he's starting to earn that trust, and we're starting to feel better about the depth there. So, that group of guys, we really feel like a fourth guy will emerge there, and maybe an extra, which bodes well. We'll look at flexibility and continue to be multiple in what we're doing based on what people are doing up front in both our 4-3 and our 3-4 defense both.
Is Corey still considered the backup to Travis right now, even though he's working a lot at the center and some other spots?
He's got the ability to flip and play a number of positions, and it's not hard for him. And the good players, you don't have to overcoach them, and that's not to minimize, responsibilities and discipline within the defense, but it's not real hard for him. He played 4 positions at different times in the spring and played them all pretty dang good. So he's still a young player, but has shown an ability to kind of flip and not get overwhelmed. Well, we'll see. Again, we'll let the test of time. So it's just been 3 days. We'll see. He's proven when he's gotten in some games that he showed up, can tackle, make plays, be around the football. And, he'll continue to battle, and we'll find out which guy shows up the most and plays most consistently, through fall camp here. So he's still, he's showing up and has looked good.
Brent, a lot of your guys are on special teams, and you've got a number of young players that are really athletic. Early in camp so far, can you get an idea how your special teams may be improved by some of the infusion of this young talent?
Well, I think I think it would be again a culmination of the more experience and more consistency with both the kicker and again the coverage units had a bunch of young guys on. At times we got caught with maybe some guys that with some of our starters that weren't on the field, and our best players need to stay on the field and play with more discipline. Because again, it has a trickle-down effect in how you play as a team. And I think that's football 101. It's a phase that is undervalued too often, and whether it's momentum shifters in games, you start the game in Columbia, halftime at A&M. You're putting points on the board and you're putting stress in other areas. And we need to be a lot more consistent that way. But I'm not one to sit here and judge on where we're at. Other than I think we definitely feel like we got the a good group of guys on each of those units and more quality depth there.
Thanks, Brent.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks.